Alright, welcome back Generals and Admirals. This is General Johnny, and today we are going through the Russian BMD spam on Broken Arrow, and this is an absolute meta right now. And as a US main player, it's pretty annoying to deal with, but we'll go over shortly some ways you can deal with it as a US main player and talk about all of the points for the Russian BMD spam. But without further ado, we'll get this one kicked off. Please like and subscribe to General Johnny Strategy, where I go over all things strategy, all things RTS, and all things Broken Arrow. So with the BMD spam, for the agenda today, we're going to go through the BMD spam deck through the arsenal. Then we'll show some in-game footage of the BMD spam deck and kind of how to use it, give some tips on some of the units and the strategies behind it. So this is the BMD spam deck, and I'm just going to go tab by tab. Definitely not the most interesting stuff right off the bat, but some important things to note. So for the recon tab, I do have the VDV airborne kind of Spetsnaz and the Razvedka. And then also the Orion. So the Orion's just there for, recon in general. But this is kind of important. You do need to include the BMDs as part of your recon tab just to increase the number. But you can kind of increase some of this. You probably add in some more things as well. But the main point about this is you can get 6 BMDs here, and really you're aiming for I would say about 30 to 40 BMDs total that you're able to pump out. So if you do kind of the math on that, you're gonna have probably anywhere between 10 to 20 BMDs out there, but you want to be able to spawn obviously more. So 10 to 20 BMDs on the field. That's 400 to 800 points in BMDs, which is equivalent if you take some US tanks, which are on average around 300. You're looking at 1, 2, or 3 US tanks that this would be countering point wise. So for the recon tab, you're gonna have those set up to where you can increase the BMDs. These are also gonna be used for recon. I also like to have them have a little bit of AT capability. Is why I do this VDV here, and then this is just for recon, and then the Orion obviously is out there for recon as well. So the next tab, this is probably the most important tab, the infantry tab in the BMD spam deck. So you're gonna get your VDV DSH. Okay, you're gonna get 8 of those. Now it is important what kind of BMD that you get. Both of these were BMD Conqueresses, so you can see the upgrade. All that was the Conqueress, the 5-point upgrade, and then no other upgrade part of it. So that's the same thing that we have here with the BMD Conqueress. We got 8 of those off the VDV DSH. We got 4 more off the VDV Metis. Okay, and just making sure, again, that's just the Conqueress upgrade. And then off the VDV AGS, we have no ATGM, so this is not upgraded at all, and that's just to pump out a few more just to get the mass in there. You can honestly play around with this. Like, you could probably put this down to just the no ATGM or whatever, or however you want to kind of play with this. And then you also have and this is actually really important, to bring some BMP-3 Ms with it. So I put it with the Vampires. The Vampires are going to be primarily AT. So, and this is a very important, I would definitely suggest bringing the Vampires, because we'll talk about how important tanks are against the BMD spam. But you have the BMD or BMP-3 Mike turret instead of the Polka. All right, it makes it a lot cheaper. Okay, and then this also provides smoke, ECM, and just kind of some of the firepower when fighting armor with your BMDs. So very important that you bring that, and those are the upgrades. Okay, and then with the IGLA teams, I have no ATGM, so it's just a normal BMD 2. All right, we got 3 more BMDs, and then it also has the smoke pods. So important that you bring some with smoke pods, just to smoke, you know, your entire swarm or your entire column. Is going to save a lot of BMDs that way. And again, you can play around with this. You could probably add some more smokes in some of it. You probably take away some of the concursors, but all in all, this is pretty standard build on the BMD side and kind of the distribution of BMDs. All right, in the vehicle tab, so what I have is kind of more spam. Really, is just 6 T-72 Bravo Alpha. So you do have the gun upgrade with that, but that's the only upgrade that we're bringing. That keeps it at 150 points, which is really doable with tanks. So I like to bring 3 of these, again, just to increase the firepower, fight off some of the tanks, and kind of just deter some of the US players with their tanks. Then I have 6 of the Sprute SDMs with the SDM upgrade for the gun. Makes it 125 millimeter upgrade, a little bit more damage there, as you can see. And then I have the Sturm SM into the vehicle tab as well. Okay, the support tab's not super interesting, but we'll go through it. The Pantsir, okay, this is really expensive, and I don't always bring this out. I'm only bringing out probably 1 of this because this will affect your point flow, especially when you're BMD spamming. But you know, you bring that out, full upgrade, okay, to shoot down helicopters. We'll talk about why this isn't as important to bring. You definitely want to bring your S300s to, you know, take out the air. I would get the 4 missile upgrade with that. The Strelas, okay, the Strelas I don't use that much, to be honest, but this is, you know, you can definitely send this out depending on what kind of map you're on with your column to improve the anti-air capability of it. Okay, the Tulpans, so this is really going to help destroy some of the ATGMs or some of the units that they're going to set up kind of out of range of your BMDs. So I would definitely suggest bringing some sort of artillery. It doesn't have to be the Tulpans. It could be Malka. It could be a number of things. It's just what I brought in this. All right, I did bring out 2 of these PTS-4s Duplo. So, you know, the thing is, you really shouldn't be resupplying or like going crazy on resupplies with your BMDs, but it does help to bring some supply out, so that, you know, you're not just wasting BMDs. Yeah, they're only 35, 40 points max, or 45 point max, but you know, if you can save points and you can, you know, you still have to get them out to the field. So it is worth resupplying them or your tanks or whatever. So definitely bring out some supplies. I also have 2 of these to bring out some infantry and more supplies. And then the 2S9 Nona, again, just quick mortars just to get out there and destroy whatever they're trying to stop your BMD rush with. All right, for the helicopters, got the Alligator and the Mi-28. So for the Alligator, this is mainly to destroy tanks, so I made it pretty much as cheap as possible. Okay, it's got the GSH-23 Lima gun pods, okay, for anti-helicopter and to help with infantry, and then it's got the Vickers ATGMs. So this ripple fires and is pretty good at destroying tanks, or at least using their ECM smokes and APS. So make sure you bring that out. And then the Mi-28 is really just for anti-helicopters. So if I need to kill a helicopter out on the flank, maybe again too far for my BMDs to shoot, then I'll bring out those. And then in the air tab, we have the Su-35 Sierra. So this is really just ASF fighter. Okay, you can kind of see the loadout here with the long range rockets, R-37s. Okay, so we got 4 of those. We have 4 R-77s, and then we have 2 R-73s. Again, this is to fight other planes. They're going to send out a lot of planes to try to take out your BMD columns. It's important that you fight back with something. Okay, and then this is also really important, the Su-57, you know, with the anti-radiation. So this is for seed missiles. Okay, and then it will get off its cruise missiles. You know, you can kind of play around with this. Maybe it's more beneficial to try running 4 cruise missiles, and these are the cluster cruise missiles, so they destroy tanks. And again, we'll talk about why that's so important actually right now. So the biggest thing that the BMD is going to struggle with is destroying heavy armor. The reason why this BMD is so effective is because it eats infantry and it eats helicopters. And why is that? It's primarily because of the 30 Mike, the 2 Alpha 4230 Mike. So this thing just eats absolutely any sort of helicopter. It can eat any sort of infantry in buildings. I mean, the time to kill is just ridiculously low in this thing. So this is kind of all the stats you can see here with the damage. It's just I think it's the rate of fire that really just again destroys infantry, destroys helicopters, but it is not really that effective. Yes, it's effective against in groups. It's effective against light armored vehicles, but heavily armored vehicles like your Abrams, it's going to struggle with. Now, what does it do with the Conquerors is it does fire the ATGM. Okay, so when it fires the ATGM, it has to be stationary. So if you have 5 or 6 or 7 or 20 of these BMD Conquerors, okay, out there, and they're all stationary, you just tell your column to stop or halt or whatever, they'll fire their 20 ATGMs. That will cause the tanks or whatever's firing at you to basically halt fire, and as soon as they halt fire, or they'll pop smoke, they'll have to halt fire. Then you can advance, kill more of the enemy units, and then once they, you know, come back into range or whatever, you just stop again and fire at it. The point being is they cannot take a full volley of Conqueresses. I mean, it will half health them or full health them depending on how many you have firing the ATGMs at them. Obviously, just like any other ATGM, it's got to have line of sight, so there's some things that they can do to kind of prevent you from killing them off the bat, but it does require a lot of micro on their part. Meanwhile, they're getting, you know, torn up by the 2 Alpha 4230 Mike. So it is very interesting gameplay, and you'll kind of see it. Also, on top of it, like I said, it eats helicopters. So, you know, they bring some kind of AT helicopter with Hellfires or whatever, and they're tearing you up. Well, if they get in range of, I'm talking 1 or 2 BMDs, those things are going down pretty much immediately. So that again is why the BMD spam works so well, because it's anti-infantry, it's anti-helicopter, and it fights pretty well against most armor vehicles, and it can fight against tanks too. It's just you need a large amount, and really it's map dependent on how well this is going to work. But that's why you kind of bring out the 72s, the Spruits, and stuff like that to help against those tanks absorb those shots and hit points, as well as putting, you know, main tank rounds downrange to destroy them. That's also why it's really important to bring out anti-tank helicopters like the Alligator and anti-tank planes like the Su-57 and the cruise missiles. So that's kind of why we have this build, and again, that's also why we brought out the RPG-29, the Vampire. That's why we bring out the Metis and the VDB DSH. Okay, all this has obviously some kind of anti-tank capability. We have the Iglas to kind of help with the air. When I say that the BMDs, you know, kill helicopters and everything, that's assuming they're in range. So you're going to still want to bring out the Pantsir and the Igla to help with that range. So that's everything on the deck build. Again, this is just a basic deck for the BMD spam. You can probably change a lot of things to it, but we're going to go in game and talk about real quick how to use this deck. Okay, so here we are in game. This is actually from a live stream. So this is actually the first time that I'm using the BMD deck on this stream. And as you can see, we're already deploying a bunch of different BMDs. We have the air open, and I'll kind of skip through this to the more interesting parts, but you can kind of see the BMD column. I would advise, you can load your BMDs with infantry, which is kind of how we have it here. But I think the better advantage is to bring it without infantry. Maybe a few iglas, maybe a few other things that you can add in there with the BMDs. But as you can see, we have 8 BMDs, I believe, out there right now. I would prefer even more than that. And you kind of want to hide them, and then once you know where your attack is, as you can see here, then I'm gonna send them out together, because these things do best in mass, right? And this is, again, it's very dependent on your map. This is kind of a open, but then they also have a lot of buildings here as well. So it is very interesting. You'll see kind of the engagement against the infantry and how quick they kill it. I mean, they just killed that smalls, or pretty much almost killed that infantry, and then they're killing the javelin within 3-4 seconds. I mean, this is ridiculous. Now, it is getting hit by the tank, as you can see, and that's pretty much the counter, so these things aren't invincible. This is what I'm talking about mass-wise. You kind of hit a critical mass when you're fighting against some of these things, so that's why I would suggest even more than what I have. But if you do meet some resistance that you can't fight on, or you can't fight against, then just do like I'm doing here and just push through to further into them. So, and you see they take more than one hit from the M1A2 Abrams, so I mean, like, it's gonna be pretty good either way. And now you're creating problems, you're dropping off infantry, and all that, so you can kind of see how effective this is. And there's the second batch of BMDs. As you can see, 16 BMDs, all those. And there's some of that anti-tank infantry that's kind of helping out. Again, that's going to be your biggest problem. But even one BMD, so I'm sending that one BMD after this javelin here. I'm setting down my Vampires. If it could have shot that helicopter, it would have killed it, but that's why we have I believe that's the Pantsir firing too. And here we go, it's just causing chaos, just even one BMD. And keep in mind, these things are 35 points. I'm sorry, that was the BMP-3 mic, but still, either way, BMD can rush through, and because of the rush, you're just killing things. Very simply, you're overloading the enemy, and that was just with the first wave. So this is the second wave coming in, as you can see here. We're still fighting infantry in the town. But this is kind of what it looks like when it gets up with. This is when we push to Charlie. Again, just putting the pressure. But really, you're just going to get a lot of kills. You're going to cause a lot of chaos with this. And they're just not going to be able to defend. Even that tank round, it took, 2 tank rounds, 3 tank rounds, and your BMD is still alive. Yeah, it's on 1 HP, but you still have the most of those BMDs, and even if you lose that one, it's 35 points. And here I'm spawning out the T-72s. We'll skip forward to show you kind of what the T-72s do to help you out here. But yeah, you capture this, and see, this is where what you don't want to be doing, and kind of what you kind of figure out here is where the enemy has a line of sight down like a narrow corridor that you can't really fire with your ATGMs, but they can fire. And then this is another counter, is the airplane. So make sure you have the S-300s. that pretty much took out a huge portion. But I mean, all in all, that was worth maybe 150 points or what have you, which is basically one vehicle for the US. So I mean, or like a Bradley or whatever, that was that whole column that they took out. So the biggest issue you're going to run into is spawn times, spawn reloads and stuff like that. But even that's not really an issue when they're throwing away, helicopters, planes, all sorts of things just to try to kill your column. So that's pretty much the advantage of the BMD. We'll skip forward to showing the T-72s. So this is T-72s. We got, I believe, 3 of them here. Okay, so I'm sending it against one of the tanks that's been kind of ruining my day. If the tanks were out in the open field and deep, where the BMDs could kind of get them with the ATGMs, which I'm pretty sure happens at some point, be a lot easier. But again, just a swarm kind of gameplay with this T-72s. I mean, they don't take nearly as much damage against the Abrams, and now they're getting supported by the Marines. So ideally this is with the BMDs so that the BMDs can handle that Marine as well. But you can see 3 tanks against 1, really 2. That other tank should have been helping out a little bit more. But yeah, so that's it. That just killed the Abrams there. And then you have another Abrams, I believe that was a V2. So I mean, the V2 is worth what, usually 285 or somewhere around that, or 300, I think 300 something points. So we traded 272s. I mean, it's really probably came out negative on that, but it has to do more with now we can use our BMD spam more effectively now that one of those tanks is gone. And then they bring out this tank, runs it straight into our BMD column. Let's see if we use our ATGMs. We may not, again. So it's kind of like one of the first times we're playing this. Yep. So the smoke is still covering them, but we're going to keep moving forward here. And you can see infantry in the open is just going to get eaten alive by these BMDs. And then we fire ATGMs and they use a smoke. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure at that point they're done with smoke. So next time we catch out in the open, they're not going to be able to do anything to prevent that. He knows that, so he's got to retreat back. And this is just BMDs eating more infantry, as you can see here. It's gonna kill 1 or 2 or whatever, but these things are worth 35 or 70 points, the infantry that we're fighting here. So I mean, we already came out 35 points ahead. And here's the second round of ATGMs. Hopefully it doesn't have a smoke, and it doesn't, and it's dead. So I mean, that is the advantage of the BMDs right there, is just being able to do that, and then spam it and then move them forward. Hopefully we have a helicopter. Last thing I would like to show you is the effectiveness against helicopters, and kind of how that works. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything with the BMDs, and here we are spawning out more BMDs as fast as we can, really just overloading them. And you like to keep them, again, I have them in groups of 6 here, but you can have them in larger, smaller groups. I mean, you can go down as low as 3 groups of 3, but the bigger the group, the more pushing power you're gonna have against whatever. And here we go, and we're gonna try helping out our teammate here. I don't think this actually ends up going very well, but they can fight in the forest, sure. I would say you don't really want to fight against AT infantry as much in the forest. And then here are so glad I've shown this part, the bookers. The bookers are going to eat this alive, so you just got to be careful with the bookers. That's a huge counter. They're just rate of fire. We're also running into infantry, so that's not helping here, but do not run into the bookers or else they will destroy you. But you see one BMD is capping Charlie while this is going on. I don't really care about these points. So once they get to a certain hit point level as a group, you kind of can just like throw them away and get new ones in, or however you want to play it. Alright, so this is great. The last thing I want to show you is the effectiveness against the helicopters and how quickly a group of these things can eat it. And there it is. It's pretty far away, and it's running away, and it's dead. So I mean, it's got even pretty good range, but I mean, the time to kill, if they start shooting at the helicopters, they're going to die pretty immediately. And as you can see there, and that's what makes this tactic so dangerous against really everything you're fighting. So from that battle that we just showed, you can see the stats on this BMD. Again, we deployed 86. It had 25 kills. The damage, you can see it led the entire game on damage contributions at 8.52%. So that's a huge stat that it's gonna pretty much outperform every single time. And again, it's because of that main gun that it's got on it. And here is just kind of the unit card. Again, the main gun, the 30 mic, kind of what what it has, and you can go check out those stats on BA Armory and everything. But yeah, so I mean, that is the huge. And then again, this game didn't do as well. I mean, 0.53 KD is pretty bad, but 11.11 damage contribution is huge on this, and they were playing it really well. Again, the counters to this are going to be airstrikes, it's going to be helicopters, keeping them far out in range, and then really tanks and infantry, but kind of grouped up in their own way. The more distance you can keep out of range of the 30 mic, that's going to be the advantage in kind of fighting these things as a US player, but it's very difficult to do, and you know, you kind of have to have a deck built out to fight that, and you know, people aren't going to always know that you're sending these BMDs in the first place. So that's everything I have for you today. Thanks again for joining General Johnny's Strategy. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.